Hello again, everybody. This is Steve Kallas, speaking of sports, and we're here to talk about a very exciting Super Bowl 54. I'm sure virtually all of you watched it. It was an incredible game for a few reasons. Patrick Mahomes looked human, average, maybe even below average for 3 quarters and about 6 minutes or so. I mean, it was just incredible the way this game went. The pressure of San Francisco was as advertised. I did not think they could really shut him down. And of course, they didn't shut him down for the whole game, but they certainly shut him down for 3+ quarters. They had the lead 20-10. And as you know, an incredible comeback by the Chiefs, led by Mahomes. They scored twice to take the lead. And then they scored kind of a tack-on touchdown at the end. I mean, they were killing the clock after that. They were killing the clock late in the fourth quarter. I guess there was a chance maybe that San Francisco could have gotten the ball back, but they would have had to score a touchdown. I thought the game was over at 24-20 once Jimmy Garoppolo took a sack on 4th down. We'll get to that. So normally, as you know, we look at 2 or 3 plays. You guys pretty much know all the stats already. San Francisco was able to rush the ball, but they rushed for 141 yards, which again, you know, that's pretty good, but it's not the 285 that they had in the NFC Championship game. It's not the 220 that Mostert had. He had like 58 yards, I think, or something like that. Again, they did it to Derrick Henry. They did it to Mostert. Deebo Samuel was actually a better rusher, 3 carries for like 53 yards or something, you know, end arounds. But there's a whole bunch of plays I want to get to, and the first one, it's not really a play, it's kind of a non-play, or at least a non-calling of a timeout, and I'll give you the exact time. After the Chiefs couldn't make it on 3rd down, Shanahan could have called a timeout with 1:47 left in the half. Now, they were going to get the ball probably deep in their own territory, but he had 3 timeouts left. He easily could have called a timeout, and there would have been 1:47 left, 2 timeouts to just try and get some points. Instead, for some reason, he decided not to. I never really heard an explanation after the game. But the next play, 4th down, the Chiefs kicked a touchback, and there was 59 seconds left in the half. So it was 48 seconds for a punt. I mean, that makes no sense. So afterwards, what happens? They get the ball, they run it up the middle, they get 3 yards. And I did hear Shanahan say after the game, well, if we had gotten a big play on 1st down, I would have started using my timeouts. It's just really almost ass backwards. And forget what I say. If you were watching the game, a few seconds later, they showed John Lynch, the general manager of the 49ers, up in the suite up there. And when the Chiefs missed on 3rd down and they're going to punt, he was doing the timeout sign. And then he just kind of stopped when he realized that his coach on the field was not going to call timeout. I thought that was a big blunder. So you know what happened. You know, they then threw a pass that got to the 45, and then they threw a long pass to Kittle that Kittle caught. And, you know, they called offensive pass interference, and I can just say this. The NFL's been around for 100 years, and the first 97 or 98 years of the NFL, that would have never been called. Is it technically offensive pass interference because he pushed, extended his arm kind of? Well, yeah, I guess so. But I'll say it again, even 2 years ago, I don't think it would have been called. Maybe last year when they started all the changes, maybe this year when they have the challenges, and it has been called a lot more. In the old days, it used to be like a subtle, you kind of gain an advantage. But that took, I thought, 3 points away, obviously. But I'll say this. Had they called timeout with 1:47 left and ran the same plays exactly as happened, when Kittle caught that ball, there would have been like 40 seconds left in the half, so maybe they could have scored a touchdown. Instead, they got nothing. Again, was it a good pass interference call? Under the way the rules are today, yes, it was a good pass interference call. Was it ever called ever before 2 years ago? I don't think ever. I don't think you can find a game where that subtle a movement was called. So I thought it was weird not to take a timeout. And again, the GM's up there making the timeout sign. And they might have lost 3 points there, but I thought it was a good call. I don't know that they should make these calls, but this is the way the NFL is now. So they took some points off the board. The question really was, would it have been 3 or would it have been 7 if he had called timeout? And instead they got nothing. So I want to go right to the fourth quarter. There's so many things, obviously, that happened in the fourth quarter. Again, Chiefs are down 20-10, and here's the first one I want to talk about. Chiefs 3rd and 15 on their own 35 with 7 minutes and 13 seconds left. And you know what play this is. This is the long pass to Tyreek Hill. They were getting good pressure on Mahomes the whole game. There was good pressure on Mahomes here. He had maybe a split second extra, and he was able, I won't say step into it. He had kind of a small step into it, and he threw the ball 54 yards in the air like it was nothing. And it was a 44-yard completion to Tyreek Hill, who was all by himself. Now, all I heard afterwards was, well, that wasn't such a great throw. If he hit him in stride, he would have scored a touchdown. I don't even think that's true, but I think some people just don't understand. He's been pressured the whole game. This is 7 minutes left in the game. He was sacked a few times. He was rushed out of the pocket like he hadn't been for most of the year. I know he's Patrick Mahomes, and I thought he'd be better. Of course, eventually he was better. But he's just trying to get rid of the ball, and to throw it as far as he threw it, with the pressure he was under, he got hammered right after he let the ball go. Just the fact to me that he got it there, that he got it off, that he was able to throw it, again, from where he threw it, 54 yards in the air. I thought it was an incredible throw. So I think people are dreaming a little. It's like he had plenty of protection and 6 seconds to throw it, and he was able to really step into it. That was a fantasy in this game. And you give the San Francisco defense credit for that, but you also give the Chiefs a little credit on that one for giving him that extra split second, because that's what you're talking about. I wouldn't even call it a half a second, maybe a quarter of a second. He got it off, and of course that was a key play, the Kelsey pass interference, which was clearly pass interference. So that's how they cut the lead to 20-17. The next possession for the 49ers didn't even last a minute. They were 3 and out. It was an incredible job by the defense. You have to give the Chiefs defense credit, just as they shut down Derrick Henry. Everybody thought they were going to run all over the Chiefs 2 weeks ago and in the Super Bowl. It just didn't happen. So the next play I want to go to is that Watkins play down the sideline. 3:44 when the ball is snapped. 3:44 left in the game. And Watkins somehow is one-on-one with Richard Sherman. And it was fascinating because he just blew right by Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He can't run with these guys. Maybe earlier in his career, maybe he could run a little better, but he certainly can't run with Tyreek Hill, and he can't run with Sammy Watkins. And Watkins, interestingly, after the game, talked about a play in the NFC Championship game where Davante Adams, who, even though Green Bay got whomped, Davante Adams had a great game, and he made the exact same move on Sherman for a long pass and gain. And Watkins said he had watched the tape on that, and he knew if he could get inside of Sherman, he could blow right by him. That's exactly what happened. So even though it's kind of a throwaway play in a game where the Packers are getting killed, it obviously wasn't for the Chiefs, who watched the tape, specifically Sammy Watkins, and he made the exact same move. Went in, he said he got inside leverage on Sherman, and once he did that, he blew right by him. Perfect pass from Mahomes, 38-yard gain. Arguably one of the 2 or 3 biggest plays in the game. So what happens after that? My son tells me I'm too picky on this. I thought Watkins should have fallen down in bounds, because now you're in kill the clock mode. He's probably right. The guy made a great catch. He's running. He's not thinking about the clock. But on first down after that, Mahomes runs around the left side, about 3:37 left or whatever it was after the catch, and he runs out of bounds after a 4-yard gain. All he has to do is slide and stay in bounds, and what happens? He can take 40 seconds off the clock. This would come into play later. Imagine if the 49ers came back and scored and won the game. These would have been gigantic plays, but of course that didn't happen. So the next play I want to talk about is the Damian Williams touchdown catch, which happened with 2:44 left. You saw the play. Williams just kind of flares out to the right. Mahomes rolls that way, throws it to Williams. As he's stepping out of bounds, his right foot is on the 2, but he's leaning forward, and the ref immediately calls it a touchdown. And look, I thought the Chiefs were going to win. I thought they were going to cover. I'm rooting for the Chiefs, frankly, and I wasn't sure he got in. And they showed the replay 5 or 6 times, And here's the problem now: the referees have been taught now, if there's a fumble, maybe call it a fumble. Why? If it's a turnover, it'll be reviewed. Same thing on a touchdown now. If it's close to a touchdown, call it a touchdown. Why? Because it's automatically be reviewed. Now, if the ref says no, the ball should be on the half-yard line, Is there going to be a challenge? Is there going to be a review? The answer is you don't know. But if he raises his hand and calls it a touchdown, you absolutely know it's going to be reviewed. But here's the problem with that. That play was so close. First of all, they should have a camera on every goal line in the NFL for every game now, because you really needed a goal line view and you didn't really have it. So you couldn't really tell. And right away, Troy Aikman said, well, it doesn't look like there's enough here to overturn. I think they asked Mike Pereira, the referee in the booth, who's an expert. I don't think there's enough there to overturn. So now you have the weird situation where the call on the field gets great deference, which it usually does. But I think the reason that was called a touchdown is because the refs are now prone to call the turnover. They're prone to call a touchdown. Why? Because the refs know it'll be reviewed. So after a very long time, they said the touchdown stands. And again, I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I'm still not sure he got in before he stepped out with his right foot on the 2-yard line leaning forward. Obviously a gigantic play, and you guys will remember it was 3rd and goal. That would have made it 4th and goal from maybe the half-yard line. And are you going to kick an easy field goal and play for overtime, or are you going to go for it? Now everybody says Andy Reid's a gambler, he would go for it, but understand this, if he goes for it and doesn't make it, they lose the Super Bowl. So I'm not sure it was that easy of a decision, as opposed to kicking the field goal, hope you win the coin flip like the Patriots did against Atlanta that year, and then have Mahomes go right down the field. I'm not sure it was so cut and dried. And even if they asked him and he said he would have, I don't know if they did. I heard an interview with him, but he wasn't asked that question. I'm just not so sure he would have, because again, if they don't score, the Super Bowl is essentially over. Yes, they had their timeouts. Yes, maybe they would have gotten the ball back, but it's called a touchdown, 24-20, a few more plays to talk about. And this is really an entire series, the entire series. Now, San Francisco gets the ball back. They have time. Mahomes doesn't fall down in the field, so they could have taken 40 seconds off the clock. They didn't. Sammy Watkins maybe should have fallen down after that long catch. Maybe he wasn't thinking that way. He ran out of bounds. That's 2 times they could have stopped the clock. They could have kept it going if they fell down. That's 40 seconds a pop. Maybe the 2-minute warning would have got taken up in there somewhere. Not sure of the exact timing. But the last 4 plays, well, they got the ball back after KC scored again. But the real last 4 plays, the 49ers are driving. They have the ball in the KC 49, first down. And thankfully, we talked a lot about this guy in the preview. Chris Jones was a monster. 6'7". Chris Jones wasn't anywhere near Garoppolo on first down. He raises his hand, he bats the pass down. This is like the 4 downs for the game. Second down, they made a big deal about Fuller coming in and maybe deflecting the pass. And on replay, they showed that Chris Jones, 6'7", again, nowhere near the quarterback. You're taught to raise your hands if you can't get to the quarterback. He got a finger on that ball, and you saw it wobble a little. So if nothing else, it would have been harder to catch. And maybe it was catchable, maybe it wasn't. Fuller made a play. But it was incredible to me that Chris Jones, you could argue the defensive MVP. I think he had like 2 tackles on the score sheet, one of them being an assist. But he put incredible pressure on Garoppolo, and he had not 2, but 3 batted down passes in that game. Again, the third one being just a finger, but certainly altered the pass. If you watch the slow motion replay, you can see that. He was just a monster, and as we talked about beforehand, he had been hurt. He got healthy for the Titans game. He played really well against the Titans. Nobody really noticed. We talked about him before the game as maybe being a key defensive factor, and he was gigantic, especially on those 2 plays. Third down, though, with everything that was going on, third down, Jimmy Garoppolo, he had an open receiver down the field. I just want to give you the time of that. Was Emmanuel Sanders, 1:40 left in the game. He had a step. How he got a step is beyond me. He would have caught the ball on the 10-yard line, and if it wasn't overthrown, I think he would have scored. Maybe they would have tackled him, but they would have been, first and goal. And that was the ball game. They still could have pulled it off on third down, and they couldn't. And then fourth down, just a gigantic Garoppolo mistake. I'm sorry. It's fourth down. It's the Super Bowl. You go back to pass. Nobody's open. They bring the blitz. They got guys coming on you quickly, and you saw what happened. He was eventually called for in the grasp, which is a sack, and he tried to push the ball with 2 hands, and it touched the lineman, but there's no illegal touching because he was already called in the grasp. Long before that, he's just got to throw it. At that point, it's like a Hail Mary. Fourth down in the Super Bowl. This is your last chance to win the Super Bowl. You have to throw a pass. I don't even care if you throw it where the guy on the other team is. Throw it up in the air and hope your guys can make a miracle play, because to take a sack there, to me, is unforgivable. That's essentially the game. As you know, Williams goes around left end, 38-yard touchdown. They come back again, but the game's already over now. It's 11 points with no time left, and Fuller makes an interception to really put the cap on it. But an incredible game. Can't say enough about Andy Reid. I thought he was a Hall of Fame coach. 7th all-time in regular season wins. Before he won the Super Bowl, Marv Levy lost the Super Bowl 4 times. He's in the Hall of Fame. Bud Grant of the Vikings lost the Super Bowl 4 times. He's in the Hall of Fame. But now when you get that one Hall of Fame victory, and look, Mahomes, Andy Reid, as Andy Reid said after the game, I feel like I can coach another 20 years if this is going to be my team. And, of course, the problem, just looking forward briefly, you know what the problem is. Mahomes is going to command, they say, like $40 million a year. The beauty of Tom Brady and the Patriots, whatever you think of Tom Brady and the Patriots, he always took less money, and he took $5-10 million less than he could have gotten, maybe even more, the last few years on the open market. Now he's a free agent. Patriots are going to have to pay him. He doesn't want to give him a discount. But what happened was that $5 or $10 million Brady saved them every year. They went out and got 1 or 2 real good players. Now, if Mahomes is getting $40 million and he's going to take every nickel, which I don't think he should. Doesn't matter if you make $35 or $40 million. I know I shouldn't talk about other people's money, but that's how the Patriots stayed competitive, in my opinion, for 20 years. So Brady had no contract early on. He was a 6th-round pick. But when he started making real money, he never took as much as he was worth ever. And other people say, well, his wife's a supermodel. She makes more than he does, $30 million a year. Yeah, that's true, but you get the point. So if Mahomes takes $40 million a year, for example, Chris Jones is a free agent. He played out of his mind the last 2 games, and everybody saw that. Are they going to pay him a ton of money? I don't know, but if he goes, their defense is what it was before the end of the year, which is not as good. So I think they need to pay Chris Jones. They have to keep the defense together, because the defense was the weak spot, but they came up very big against the Titans, held Derrick Henry to 69 yards, and very big against the 49ers in the second half. So forward-looking, it's not as clear, they're going to win 5 Super Bowls. It's great that you have Mahomes, and he's the key guy, and you got incredible weapons, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey. Sammy Watkins was unbelievable, and he's their 3rd weapon. He'd be a number 1 weapon on half the teams in the NFL. So their future is bright. Will the 49ers be back? A lot of people think Garoppolo is not quite up to the task. He threw a terrible interception in the game early on, and he just does that sometimes. But look, Mahomes threw 2 interceptions and just looked average to even below average. So I'm sure it's giving some hope to other teams in the league. They're going to put in that tape for the first 3 quarters and 6 minutes, I'll say, or 7 minutes. But then they better watch the last 7 minutes of the game where he was Superman, because that's what he became. So Andy Reid became a Hall of Famer. I thought he already was. Patrick Mahomes is not the greatest quarterback in the history of the game yet. He's done it for 2 years. 2 of the most incredible years ever. MVP last year, 50 touchdowns. Super Bowl MVP this year. First guy under 25 years old to have both of those already. Super Bowl MVP, of course. Some people thought maybe Williams, but I think you had to give it to Mahomes because of the 2 throws he made. 1 to Tyreek Hill, 1 to Sammy Watkins. So Chiefs 31, 49ers 20, Super Bowl 54 in the books. This is Steve Kallas, speaking of sports. We'll see you the next time.